what we are going to be discussing is how we would like kind of what we want to coach when players are 10 to 12. And I've got a bunch of caveats on exactly where we're like. The hardest thing with lacrosse is that teams who are more skilled and have been playing longer, obviously going to be doing more advanced things, and they can accept more things because I guess they can do more advanced teamwork, I don't know, skills or schemes because they don't have to think about their stick work. So at a level, this will talk about how we want to do stick work, but there will be certain parts where I say I would not do this if I don't have players who are going to be able to pass and catch. And so I think that's very important because as one of the things with POWLAX and this whole video thing that I really need to do a better job of is making sure people understand kind of where the content fits for each team and also build out a lot more smaller content. But so as we rep through this, that will be little mentions here and there. It'll also be a lot more organized. Next, at this point, we are in the upper levels of me and my partner play. So if you remember from the 6 to 8 video, 6 and under, no, is it 8 and under? Yes, 6 and under is me and my stick. 6 to 10 is me and my partner. And then I think 10 to 12, maybe even all the way up to 14 is like me and my team. And so those are the attributes that we are going to bring to this, kind of the ideal. I'm probably getting the names wrong. If TJ is watching somewhere, he'll know. But so here we go. So also, guys on YouTube, good morning. Hope you guys are having a good morning. Okay. So let's do a quick overview. When we think about what we are going to be able to do within a season, the first thing that we have to understand is how much time are we going to have. For the majority of teams, if you're not a red team, which so red is the most advanced, white is the middle, blue is like beginners. If you're not a red team and you haven't already been practicing, the odds of you getting more than 2 90-minute practices per week and then a game on the weekends is pretty moot. It's not probably going to happen. So setting your expectations in a reasonable spot is the first thing you have to understand. And with that said, the first thing that makes that the first part is, if you have players that are new to the game, they must be playing for at least 50 to 60% of the practice. When we bog players down into skill development sessions, they lose a passion for the game because it's boring. Players want to come to practice so that they can play, not so they can rep out certain things. And this applies to the high school age groups too. The thing that we're going to be dealing with, and this is a total off branch, but everyone right now has, they have tryouts, right? Tryouts are coming. And for specific kids, I don't believe in lacrosse being a cut sport, except for when it is going to create a cancer on the team. And I don't mean cancer in a bad way. Like, obviously it's a bad term, then don't use that term. So what I mean is, I don't want to have someone who is creating resentment over the fact that they're on a team but they're not playing because they haven't put in the work. And so the only reason I would ever cut anyone is because, and by cut I mean from a high school program, not a club program where if they get cut from the red team, they're now on the white team. Like, that's not cutting. The only time I would ever have anyone be cut is if they can't be moved to a lower team and they've had enough time to become good enough to play. Because if you don't cut those kids, they end up quitting in the middle of the season because they think they're going to play, and maybe they will in some games where we might be up big or down, but it is very, the first thing is, we're not taking the sport from them, is the first thing, right? It's not like these people are not going to be able to play lacrosse in the summer for a men's league, or anything else like that. I'm going on a full-on caveat because it's kind of just been on my mind because it's where we're at. But so we're not taking the sport from them. They're not going to be able to play with this team for 2.5 months. They can play men's league in the summer. It's not like we're taking the sport from them. And they had enough time to become a valuable part of the team. And the thing that people don't understand when they're seeing this is they don't understand the demoralizing nature of being unuseful. It's the worst thing you could be for a kid. It's the worst thing you could possibly be. So if you can imagine, I mean, anyone who's ever been sick and has watched their loved one pick up the slack for them knows this. You hate not being useful. You hate not being, a part of the team and a part of basically someone who can be relied upon. And that's what you're doing if you're keeping kids who should not be on the team. And so, I think that's an important part of where we are, but the key for this in the 10 to 12 age range, which I just kind of skipped up to the high school range, the key for this is make sure the kids are active at practice and that they are playing a lot, because you are also selling this. Like, we're not in our competitive, if you're in your competitive thing, we'll kind of talk about that. But for the most part, most of the people who are really watching in these, they're not all the red level elite coaches. For a lot of many of those coaches already have their plans, they're former college players, yada, yada. And so that only took like 2.5 minutes, so that's not too bad. Okay. So back to how much time we have. We've only got 2 days a week. We've got 90 minutes. Let's say that we're going to put 30 minutes a day into warm up and stick skills. And then the last 60 is like playing. And the key to creating great drills is putting players in drills that create situations that allow them to learn what you want them to do based on what they're going to see naturally. So we're going to talk about building a defense, and there's a triangle show drill, and you can really, what do you call it? You can really do a good job of teaching within the triangle show drill, but you're really just doing a 3-on-3. So you're walking players through. Okay. I want to read this because it's on a thing that we were just talking about. So Tim just said, Darien, Connecticut. I can't do I did do Seymour. Carry approximately 115 players in the high school program. I don't believe in cuts. I'll explain the depth chart in place and let them know and decide if they're ready. Head into proof play. Okay. I fully agree with that, Tim. 100%. Now, what I've seen, so essentially what he said was that he doesn't believe in cutting, but he believes in being very vocal and honest with the players in telling them where their positions are. And in my experience, that has never worked. When players are told those things, at least in my past experience, they have then seen the situation, put in the work, not gotten the playing time, and then created problems and bad-mouthing within the team on the sidelines. And so Darien is a very, very good team. It's not like anyone in those organizations doesn't know that those players are going to be the players. Whereas when you get into places that aren't as gung-ho as they are, there's a lot more questions, a lot more questioning from parents to players, players to players, and it really depends on the player. And if you don't feel that they will become resentful because they're not playing, keep them on. If they're a team guy, keep them on. If they've got a great attitude, keep them on. Okay. So wanted to make sure I addressed that just because usually, I just kind of keep going. But I thought it was a pertinent issue and thought it was a good feedback too. So thank you for commenting. So, okay. So when we are creating our drills for our 10 to 12-year-old team, we want to have them play 60 minutes a day in whatever way we want. And we want we want them to play in a way that will allow them to progress. So now we're going to go through all of the different things we're going to cover, and hopefully we will be able to move through this in a manner that will allow us to really give a good overview and then dive deeply into specific ideas. But I'm going to do my best not to teach what each one of these is, because there's a whole video on them. Like, all of the stuff I discuss in this is essentially a direct relation to content that I've already created, so that it will act as a guide or a reference sheet for what people can put in extra time to learn. I'm not going to describe everything completely. That's at least my goal. So the things that I feel are pertinent to this age group, where we are learning how players, have teams, or sorry, that didn't make any sense. As we are thinking about what 11 and 12-year-old players can do, we are going to be talking about the upper echelon of what players should be able to do at this age group if they've been playing, if they have their stick skills down, and their brains are ready to understand how the teamwork works, right? So we're going to do a couple one-on-one drills. You have to know how to beat your man at this age group. It's important that players understand how to play defense. We'll do a couple defensive drills as well. We're also going to go through how to build a defense, how to give players an understanding of why they're communicating what they're communicating. One of the things that, we struggle with all the time is the thing that I would love for our players to do is, when they get together to discuss what went wrong as a goal happens, I would like them to know who missed what opportunity. And as they bring it in, I would like them to say things like, hey, I need you to let me know that you're in as the 2 so that I can slide, or so that I feel like I can slide, or so that I know if you track a cutter through the defense after we draw a slide, so that I know that the rotation is going to be farther. Whatever that is, we'd like for the players to understand not only what they did to create the advantage for the other team, but we want them to speak in a way to their teammates where they say, if you do this, it will help me, so that they'll feel good. Because one of the things you see in some teams is people will just scream at each other. So we don't want that. So we're going to go over building a defense, how to teach it, how to make sure it relates to what you're doing on the defensive end. Then we're going to go over clears. Then we're going to go over competition drills. And these competition drills is probably where we'll spend a good amount of our time, because I think those are obviously what we're going to spend the most time in practice with. Now we've got a defensive set. We're going to go over the near man defense, because we have to teach the crease and adjacent slide defenses there. We'll touch on why we don't want to do zone. And then I put in a dodging kind of thing, but I really wouldn't even go through to there. So then we've got face-offs, man up, offense, and then I'm adding in picks. We might not even get to picks, even though I feel you can utilize it, but I'm going to try and build 2 sections through the offense. Then we've got stick work drills, transition ideas, and then some tricks and some rides. So we've got a bunch that we're trying to get in. And if you're thinking that you can take 3 hours a week and you're going to install an offense, you're going to install a man up, you're going to install a man down with kids that don't already have some preconception of what that is, you're not going to. So let that expectation go, because it's just going to frustrate you. One of the things that I really want to make sure that, especially parent coaches who don't have a very good familiarity with the game, is that you're going to say the same thing 1,000 times. That's literally what coaches do. The next part is they're going to screw it up, and you want them to screw it up. You have to embrace the failure, because by embracing the failure and creating a conversation around why something is correct or wrong allows the player to develop. And this is the age where, if kids get, like, this is where the selling of the game happens. If a kid comes into high school, well, so I mean, they're going to be 6th, 7th grade here, 5th, 6th, 7th grade in this area. If they have a good experience, they're going to probably play all the way up through high school. Whereas this is definitely an age where you can easily turn players off. So first thing we're going to discuss is basically the beginning of practice. So we're going to go with stick work. So I've got these drills that I picked out of my videos that I would do. And so I picked 5, I think it's actually 6 separate drills. So first is partner passing. It's 2 players. They're passing back and forth. You're going to get maximum amount of reps and touches with the players. You're also going to go over a bunch of stick handling drills. So wind up face dodges, wind up spin moves, quick sticks. You can do lever passes. You can do behind the backs. And the partner passing video goes over all of these. It's not just, I don't show you just the drill. I show you the drill and all of the stuff that I usually run with that. The next, we have throwback line drills. And the reason we want to use throwback line drills is because for me, there are 3 essential dodges. You've got east-west dodges, which make you change directions, moving side to side around the goal. If you think of the arc in a basketball hoop, if you're running along that arc, the 3-point arc, and you roll, you are essentially in an east-west dodge regardless of where you are, whereas north-south is you're beating someone in towards the goal. So you can teach all of those dodges within those throwback line drills. So you have your east-west dodge, you have your north-south dodge, and then you have your hands-free dodges, which are how to make sure your hands get away and then you throw the ball wherever you need to. So that will teach all of those concepts within those drills. It also works as a good one-on-one drill where the player throws back and then becomes the defenseman. Then you have, so I'm going to skip clear passing, even though I think it's good, but that's more of a clearing thing. And then the last one is spike stick work drill. And the reason I picked that one and not star drill and swing it drill is because I think it reps things out quicker. Whereas if you're running a 2-3-1, I recommend running star drill with 2 players up top, a player at X, players on the wings. And as they're running the star drill, you warm up a goalie while they're doing that. And that, you rep through the progressions that we talked through in the video. But the key is that you can make sure that the players, as they catch the ball, their eyes are looking up in at you, and you can essentially warm up the goalie while keeping them active. So they're not just they're in their drill and they're repping the drill, but you also make sure that they are in the drill in a way where their eyes are up as if they were playing. And that's the other thing about stick work drills and pregame is, you've got to understand the difference between teaching and repping and activating their bodies and going full speed. Those are 2 very different things, and we want them to kind of build up to that full speed element. So the last stick work drill we have is circle dodging, and that one is going to be for your teams that are not as proficient. That's your blue level, that's your white level. And the reason I say circle dodging and why it's a part of stick work is because it will allow you to teach players how to handle the ball where every single player is involved in the drill. So no one is not going to have a ball and be doing what you're doing. It's something that you spread it all out. Everyone can do it all at once. So that's the stick work drill that I would do. Then let's go through 1v1, so competition drills. So we're going to have a whole other set of competition drills where we're building in some of the other offensive and defensive principles. We're going to do that after we talk offense, defense, and for now we're going to talk about 1v1s. So I have 3 1v1 videos. I recommend them for all age groups, but I think that if you're going to pick one or 2 of them, you do short 1v1s and wind-up 1v1s, because wind-up 1v1s are essentially what Lars Tiffany calls the general drill, which is you put the defense in a recovery situation and you dodge the recovering player. And whoever wins the point of contact wins. I don't have a general drill video yet, but it's a lot like wind-up 1v1s in a sense where you're putting the defenseman that is throwing the ball to the offensive player on an angle, not in the center of the field. You can put them in the center of the field for the wind-up 1v1s if you want, because it will teach the offensive player how to wind up and then judge going topside or going underneath. But the idea is that you are teaching how to dodge off a rotation or off a recovery, and then you're also teaching how to break down, play good defense from as you are recovering. And so Lars Tiffany and the general drill that Virginia does a lot is all about winning the point of contact. It's all about can you win your one-on-one matchup when if you win that matchup, we are going to score. So those are the one-on-one drills that I would do. The one-on-one drills that if your offense does not include something where it is just a dodger, so let's say you're trying to do two-man game stuff, which we'll discuss in a second, I don't like I'm going to set up and I'm going to run my one-on-one unless it is an active part of your offense, which for a lot of people it is. So you look at the Denver Elites offense, you look at 21-12, those are parts of the offense, and so you can definitely run those 1v1s there, but I think that more time to develop the players at that age group, if you can put them in that hard scenario of they've got to make decisions quicker, they're tighter to the goal, it will help them develop their other dodging more. Okay, so that's your 1v1s. Next, let's see. So within that, you can do the north-south dodging footwork video. I think I'm going to go back and rebuild some of those. I think the concepts in it are good, but that's just my mind thinking now. So I kind of want to make sure that we put offense, defense at the end, and then transition. I just want to make sure okay, so let's do man up and man down first. So man up, you have, if you want a set play that's going to work every time, the 22 quick will work every time at the 10 to 12 age range. Twist will also work, but so if you want to teach players how to read and you feel that your players are good enough to read the offense, I would use the reading man down defenses video, which is out of a 3-3, and that's for your understanding and your conceptualization. Then I would run the 3-3 man up, which is essentially, it's not the same video because in the reading man down defenses video, you essentially learn man down defenses through the eyes of the offense so that as you're watching the man down defense react, you can anticipate where they go and then know what's happening. And so cool thing is when I get to watch college games, if you watch that video, then you watch collegiate games, you can actually add in some of the new things that defenses teams are doing. Like Duke runs a 5-man rotation where once a team carries, they zone. And it's really cool to watch because it frustrates some teams. And the thing about man down defenses is if you can be at 60%, you're doing a pretty good job against the teams and how they do it now. Okay. So then if you're running your 3-3, twist is a play that's going to work. The majority of teams will run a box and one, and twist manipulates the top right defenseman, and it's very simple. It's literally a carry shallow cut with a throwback or a step into a shot, and as long as you teach a player who understands how to read a defenseman, you're going to be golden. The other thing about teaching, so the thing about teaching a 3-3 and twist in general, instead of the 22 quick play, is that every single player has to be active within the 3-3. If you want to run the 4-man wheel, you could, but it's a little too advanced for that group. But so what you really want is you want players who understand how to step into gaps, and the 3-3 allows them to learn that there. Okay, so now let's talk about man down. I don't even think I have a man down there. I have not. Oh no, I've got a 4-man rotation video and a 5-man rotation video, and I would do a 5-man rotation because I don't like isolating the short stick on the crease, and I think that if you're going to build the 5-man rotation, it will allow you to teach the same concepts as your defensive recovery. You are also instinctively teaching a box and one if they go into a 2-2-2, and then you're also teaching a house zone if they're in a 3-3 and they're swinging the ball. The key to the 5-man rotation, though, is just having them understand that the reason we're running that is so that we can get on hands. If you have them stay inside, you should be in a zone. Like if they're not going to be on someone's hands, the whole reason you run a man-to-man set is so that your athletic team can push the issue against the other players. I've also gotten completely away from the 4-man rotation because it's just too easy to isolate the fourth player. Unless you're going to lock someone off that is not on the inside of the field, Like if they have a best player who's going to be their shooter, I totally embrace locking that kid off and having them play 4-on-5 with the defenseman. That's cool. But you're in a 4-man rotation without that fifth guy, or I guess the sixth offensive guy, fifth guy in the middle. Now, if you are going to, so basically, I guess that's it really, is if you're going to lock someone off that's not in the middle, fine. But the pipe-to-pipe player in the 4-man rotation, it's just too easy to beat with a 3-3. And, just make sure you're on the hands. Okay, so now let's get into like the meat and potatoes of what we kind of want to talk about. Or actually, we're going to hit face-offs, clearing, and riding first. So at the 10 to 12 age group, the ride that you're going to run, that you should run, that I believe you should run, is a 3-3 zone ride where your middies are lining up just on the your offensive end of the midline, and the attackmen learn to press the ball to not allow early breakouts. They drop back in to play their men, and then you try and create doubles with the middies and the attackmen. So the middies' job is to turn players back. The attackmen's job is to ride till they toe the line, and then the middies will flow one way or the other, trying to create doubles. It's an easy ride. Offensive players who, if you have them down and you want them to windshield wiper, it's kind of demoralizing, because once a team understands how to move the ball, you're not going to be very successful in doing that. And if you can, as long as you can cover players up the field, you're going to be in a much better position. And so for the most part at this age group, you're going to have players who are just going to pick up the ball and run it out. And if you tell your attackman to drop and you can create doubles through the drills we're going to talk about, they will have a better time being an active part of the ride for longer. Okay. Clearing. I recommend doing, I think it's the 4-3 alpha clear video that I did that Duke ran. I think within it, I do mention going into a diamond set first and then dropping into the 4-3 alpha set. The bottom line is you need to set up a clear at this age group. There's no reason why your defenseman, if your defenseman can't catch, I understand the idea of having a shorty run it out, which is why you set up the diamond with the midi in the middle of the field who can catch it and run it out, because even though you're trying to build the doubles with the attackman on the whole ride, the odds of players at this age group being able to play good enough defense to really double, it's going to be the exception, not the rule, especially at the white and blue levels. But if you can... But the fact that you are trying to get the ball to a midi to run it out does not mean that the other players don't need to know they're clear. And there's a super simple drill we're going to talk about that will teach them how to banana out, how to make sure they're ready. The other thing is, if you are trying to build those doubles, having the players understand that they can throw back to the defenseman at this age group it's just something that you need to know about, so that when the kid tries to run through 3 players, you can say, hey, you're good there. Like throw, you've got guys behind you. It also keeps the defenseman and the goalie in the clear. Let's see. So now let's go face-offs. So I've got a video called Face-Off Plays. It's very, very simple. The one thing that it doesn't have in it is what to do if you're like losing. I don't think we talk about pulling the face-off. We'll talk about that for a second. But it does. If you have a kid who is in a good battle and can pull the ball in whatever direction, you can watch that video. It'll kind of teach you how to go defensive first. But the key that I've noticed is that I get a little bit too analytical, and I think balls are going to come where I think they're going to go, and it allows us to get jumped really easily. Like people can cut off the ball really easily because we think the ball is going to come to us, not we've got to go get it. And so that's something that we've been doing a lot more, is no more, this is where you can expect the ball. It's go get the ball and don't let your guy touch the ball. So that's the face-offs. And now we can get into our offensive and defensive ideas. Let's go defensive first, and we'll rep through these. So we're going to go defense, offense, and then and then our competition drills that should build these ideas. maybe we'll do transition first. Okay, let's do transition first. So at this age group, this is where they're going to start to learn the idea of fast breaks, trailer breaks, slow breaks, as well as I think this is some of the first years that players are going to get pulls. It's important that players understand within the ride and the clear how we're going to get the LSM on and off the field. So the running the box, the substitutions video, that is a huge one because it will teach you and players how to have an assistant on the bench who understands that you can't really watch the game as players are subbing. As players come on and off the field, you have to look at them. If you're not just running a rotation where the next kid goes all the time, you have to say, hey, let me know who's going next. For this, you should be able to just run a rotation, but players need to know when they're next and if they're going to go if we go to offense or defense. You're also getting the pull on and off, so huge thing there. Now, the L-fast break video, trailer break video, and slow break video did not just teach the offensive aspects of those things. They teach the defensive aspects too. And so here's your idea for fast breaks, for transition on offense and defense. On offense, you want to draw and dump. Simple. Everybody knows it. Everyone's heard it. It's very good. If you don't draw, you eliminate your advantage, and it's pretty simple. On the defensive end, you want to stall as long as possible. So you want to slow play. You want to make sure you take angles to the inside of the field and then out, and that's essentially all it is. And as you are replicating the most common scenarios, you can set people up in L fast break and things, but it's more important that we understand the general concept of coming in, attacking the goal, drawing a man, and that the off-ball players understand how to get into positions where they become dangerous because their player left them. So if you want to set them up in an L every time, go right ahead. It definitely works. It is the most efficient way to run a fast break where players are effective. I'm fine with that. But if you really want to teach them how to play, I recommend running a drill with all of the offensive players in the corner. Like imagine a square around the goal. You could even say the sidelines, where the sidelines connect on your half of the field, right? You put the offensive players on the corners and you put the defensive players on the middle of the sides, and then no defensive player top center. And then you throw the ball into any of the offensive players, and you can run it where all of the lines leave and go attack the goal, or you can do it where just the lines that are closest to the player who caught the ball. So let's say we have, let me move this a bit and let's say we have a square, right? You've got your box and all of these lines have offensive players. The goal's right in the middle. Then on here, here, and here, you have defensive lines. If the ball is thrown to him, either everybody leaves or this offensive player, and this offensive player leave while the two in the middle also go. And what that will teach players is how to actually run in to draw and then move the ball, and how to move off ball so that you're available but also dangerous on that end. And the reason we like that one better than the stand there and run the break is because everyone is in different positions and they learn the concept and idea, not this is what you're doing. If you don't see this, you don't know what's happening. Okay. Now, let's go defense. So I think, okay. Perfect. That should work. And so that is just a drill that we will hit in the competition drills video. I don't have a video on that one though. So we're going to defense. So the three videos that I use to teach defense, and so this is either a crease slide defense or an adjacent slide defense or a near man defense. I don't recommend playing zone for various reasons, because essentially you are not allowing players to learn how to run with someone and how to track someone while understanding their relationship to the ball, and players need to understand that now, or at this age group. So now, let's see. The line bump drill is a crease, slide, and recovery drill where you are learning how to communicate between the ball, the crease player who is sliding, and the backside two who is going to cover the crease while the crease defenseman slides. You run the recoveries. Each player gets to understand their spot, why they communicate, how they communicate. The biggest thing on defense that players at this age need to understand is they're not just talking to talk. They're talking because they have a role to fill. And if they can't fill that role, they're lying when they're talking, right? So if you say 2, but you're not in on the crease player within a crease slide defense, you're not actually being the 2. Then, so there you go. The next one we have is the triangle approach drill. This is an adjacent slide defense, which I recommend running for this age group, because if anyone runs an open set, you're going to need to know how to slide, because if you don't know how to slide adjacent, people can just run open sets. The kids are going to go, I don't know what we're doing, and you're not going to know. So I believe in building the adjacent first. It'll also always be there, right? The adjacent slide will always be there. This teaches how, if a player gets beat to one side, we want to slide from that side, the closest side. Backside players have to spider into the middle to create better approach angles to any exterior player. And then you are rotating into the direction of the pass. So if the pass goes forward, well, it'll make sense in the video as you watch it. Let's keep going. Next, you have the 5 on a die drill, which is basically 5-on-5 instead of 6-on-6, where you are walking players through all of their reads. When are they 2? When are they right? When are they left? When are they hot? When are they ball? When we slide in a real set, are we sliding from the crease? Are we sliding from adjacent? And as you rep it, you swing the ball around the outside. They learn how to communicate, and that's all they're doing. And then you run a dummy dodge one way, and they slide, and then they recover, and they rep through it, and you get to talk them through why they're doing what they're doing. Now, all 3 of these drills are drills that should be done in that first 30 minutes of practice. This is not something that you're going to want to do. Like, if you want to add in 10 minutes and you want to go 40 minutes, 50 minutes one day, that's fine, but you got to get into the play more so, because as much as you want to analytically think about it and talk the players through it, which is an important part, because once they're then on the field, they're going to start to see it. The majority of players are not going to see it. They're going to just react. And if you spend too much time talking, they're not going to link the talk to what they actually would do and react. But either way, so just make sure you play. The next thing we have is, let's see. So we've got triangle approach drill. That's a pretty easy one. I would just run throwback line drills to do that one. That's basically saying I want to approach to dictate. So our defensive motto this year is communicate, anticipate, dictate, right? Those 3 things. We want to talk to each other. We want to anticipate what's going to happen. And then we want to dictate where they are going to go. And one of the biggest keys for this is that it's not just turning your hips. It's one of the things that drives me nuts about some players. And it's not a reflection on the coaching that they received. It's a reflection on the fact that they don't understand the idea of the angles that they're playing, and the fact that if your hips are turned one direction, but you're not able to impede the player from getting behind you, you're not really doing what you need to do. Either way. So the next one is touch the hat approach drill. That's a good one. It's going to give multiple approaches. The one thing that I do recommend doing in that your 30 minutes of time is having everyone, one of the days you do approaches over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. I want to say that Tucker Durkin said that in the collegiate games and high school games, there are 270 approaches per game. And so if you're not practicing approaches every day, it's going to help all the players. The other thing is that you can do it with all of the players too. It's not just something that the defenseman should do. Now, if you want to use your time on a shooting drill for the offense, I can understand that, but really getting in on approaches is huge too. What I'm really starting to think of now is this is way too much for this age group if you only do have 90 minutes. But more than that, I think it gives a direction to what we might want to try to build. So the defensive sets, those are the drills that you're going to use. I recommend the adjacent slide defense. And so the adjacent slide defense video is actually just a portion of the near man defense video where we discuss how it works. It's relatively simple, and I definitely recommend that one more than the crease slide, just simply because it's always going to be there. Okay, next. Let's see. I think I went through defense relatively well. If you have any questions on the defense, let me know. I'll try and do that next week. Last one. Sorry, I gotta mention this one. If you are going to run, regardless of whether you're going to run crease slides or adjacent slides, running the Salisbury call drill is huge. It'll teach how to slide and communicate the idea of sliding and recovering and then bumping and then pointing guys through. It's just, it replicates a crease slide, but it'll just teach the mechanics of how to slide and recover regardless. And regardless of how you recover, you're always recovering inside first. And so you should always have direction once you recover inside. And that's what the drill does. Okay, now let's go to offensive sets. And so we're going to divide this into two sections. I think we're just going to decide to go long. Coaches who are waiting for the coaches only Q&A, we might push that back of, 5 to 10 minutes max, but so it shouldn't take too long. So if you want to build and use my content to build a complete set and understanding, run 2112. You can run an open set, you can run a 222, you can run a 231, you can run whatever set you want out of it, but I would run the 2112 with shallow cuts, with other things. And if you really want to dive in, you're essentially going to be running the triangle offense with a dodge, follow, float, and then a dodge, clear through, follow from X, and then a sweep, fade, float. And it's just the two triangles that are running back and forth. And so the reason that I say that is because if you are you're going to be able to build it with your 3VOs, 3V2s, and 3V3s within your West Jenny drill and everything else and they'll all go together. Whether you're with whichever set you pick. Now, 2112 is actually not supposed to just be that triangle offense. It's actually supposed to be something where you can pick whichever three-man motion that you want. And as you're building that three-man motion, you can essentially just build them both at once. But so that's what I recommend. So that's the 2112 motion offense video, the dodge, follow, float video, dodge, clear through, follow video, and then Rutgers set play is a part of that, and sweep, fade, float is a part of that. And so those are all a part of the same set of ideas. The next, Duke motion is also a part of that as well. And that's not the Duke fade and follow offense. But so next, if you are a middle of the level team, I think that's where you go with it. But more importantly for the age group, even if you're running 2112, is understanding, like, you run the drills and you make them do it, but their understanding has to be of how to create space and how to move and react to a ball carrier, which is what 2112 is for. If you have a very advanced team, Duke fade and follow might work. Cuse is a good offense for this age group because everyone has a direct role, and once the players understand their how the four-man motion and the two-man motion work together, it will definitely help. They'll be able to understand it if they have good enough stick skills where they don't have to think about their stick skills. Okay, so that's your offensive sets. That's what that's what I recommend on that level. Say what's up to Chris on YouTube. Now, your competition drills are going to be the bread and butter of what you do. And here's why. You're not going, unless you teach them just how to swing the ball, and then really run their offense exactly the same way each time. So I recommend having an end line play. Denver could work. The Duke motion is probably better for it if you're running 2112. But the odds of your team creating offense in a settled set at this age, if you're anything other than red, are relatively low. It's just not going to happen because the game is more hectic than that, which is why, even though we're talking about building these ideas And so I want to focus on one other thing really quickly. If you run the 21-12 offense and you look at the midfield motions and you watch the 3v0s, 3v2s, and 3v3s videos, that's your best competition drill. Because you can run offense and defense. You can run it as a fireball drill where you essentially throw the ball into a 3v3. Whoever gets the ball becomes the team that goes on offense. You can run subs through that same drill, and you can teach how the motion creates the spacing, and how as you create the spacing and all of that motion, you teach the defense too. So you'll see that as you reference that video. The other part of that is that because you're teaching the man down defense within that 3v2 set, you are also teaching the transition styles of everything else. So for our competition drills, the first one, remember we talked about, was the 4v3, where our offensive players are in the corners of the field, our defensive players are in the middles of the field. And the reason that is because the defenseman should be closer. You can stand at the center, at the face-off X, and you can throw long passes. Once the ball releases from your stick, defense is released, offense, obviously that player has to catch the ball, so they have to stay to wherever you threw it. But then they get to just play. And at this age group, that's going to allow them to become better players. And what you'll find is that the players that know how to play fast actually know how an offense is supposed to work because they've seen that experience over and over again. So the reason why the methodical offenses work for the most part is because, like, let's take Denver Elite. Denver Elite runs a very scripted offense that has a lot of really easy reads to make. And I mean, it's why it's so successful. It's a great offense. Like, Matt does an incredible job. And one of the things that makes it so successful is that if you're sweeping across the top, both players who are clearing through out of the way know that they need to be ready to accept the ball if their guy slides. You also have a player on the crease who, if you're dodging the alley like they like to do on occasion, you're isolating one defenseman who's going to slide. And so the reason we rep these odd man drills is so that players can see the scenarios of when they're going to slide more times than when we're in a structured set. Whereas as we're trying to create offense, we're creating the offense to give them that you draw a slide and then attack the advantage. But yeah. So now, West Jenny isn't your another competition drill. Every single player should know that. It's something you can go to all the time. It's a great drill. The problem with West Jenny is that you need two goalies. But if you want to run sideways West Jenny, that's another one where if you only have one goalie, you can run it. Same thing with Duke. You can run, so there's Duke drill and then there's Duke scrapping drill. We're going to talk about Duke drill first. Duke drill is essentially a 4v4 drill where you roll the ball out. Whichever player picks up the ball, that team is on offense. They get to play offense. And it's just something where they just get to play. Next, you have 3v2s to 4v3s. The reason I really like that one is that it just never stops. It's just a continuous drill. It never stops. The offense always has an advantage, so the defense is always learning how to rotate. And once again, you are just constantly putting the defense in a recovery state so that when you... So basically, the way I like to think about it is in the same way that a lot of people who do the same speech, like if you follow anyone who's a good speaker, they basically say the same thing over and over and over and over again. Like I say the same thing over and over and over and over again. The key is whether there's one time where I phrase it or whoever's speaking phrases it in a different way that hits someone where they connect it, right? And so we put these players in these recovery scenarios so that then when we get to our even sets and we do draw a slide, at some point, one of the defensive players, their brain's going to click and they're going to say, oh, that's why we're rotating now, is because since he slid, now we're recovering. And so the 3v2 to 4v3 is a great drill for that. And then, so the best and most important competition drill that you must run at this age group is the Duke scrapping drill. And you should build it from 2-on-1 to 3v2 to 4v3, because it doesn't only build your clears, or it doesn't only build your offense, it builds your clears. So here's the idea of the Duke scrapping drill. And I'm pretty sure that this is actually, it's a Hofstra drill from back when Danowski was at Hofstra. But if you're in a 2-on-1, you have, I think it's 3 or 5 seconds to shoot if you're on offense, because if you take too much time, remember the transition defense idea was to buy time. If you take too much time, that look's not going to be there because the defense will have recovered. Then when it's 3-on-2, you have 5 seconds. Then when it's 4-on-3, you have 7 seconds. And then once the offensive rep is gone and it's done, you throw in another ball that becomes the clear. And this is where your 11 and your 12-year-olds can definitely understand the idea of banana cutting out to the corners, because they've repped it in this Duke scrapping drill. And so the idea with this is, because the offense has more players than the defense does, the offensive players have to double the ball, and that allows them to replicate the idea of a clear where someone is open because we have more players within the confines of this smaller drill. And so that's a go-to that I would do every single time. And so I think the key to this whole video and how I outlined kind of the ones that I would pick is to get a decent understanding for what each one is, and then pick the ones that you want to do. So I released a video on TikTok and Instagram and what was it? And Mike, yeah, it was Gary. I didn't have his name. I'm glad that you tagged it. So Mike just commented something saying he's probably going to do 21-12. Don't tell anyone you're going to do 21-12. They might know what you're doing now. Just kidding. But so Gary at LaxCon explained how for 45 minutes before each practice, he would watch the videos and he would essentially educate him as he was learning, each thing. And I think that is the important part about this video and this podcast, because I don't want it to be something where you just, don't know where to go. I want it to be something where, as you are evaluating kind of your needs, hopefully this video and this podcast helped you understand what is available from the POWLAX standpoint, which in no way am I the best, person out there to get info from, but it will allow you to figure out what you want to learn, what you want to focus on, and hopefully that will build your breadth of knowledge as a coach, so that as you're communicating with all of the players, you will be able to, you'll be able to have that understanding that will, as the players look up at you, they'll go, okay, yes, I know, one, you're not going to yell at me because, we're all learning it together, but you just have to have the breadth of knowledge around all the situations in order to coach in a way where the players are allowed to fail. Because when they fail, you have to have an answer for them. And that's kind of the toughest part about this whole thing. But so those are a list of videos that I would use to help you. So I've got one more caveat. I totally skipped over it because I don't think it's not the easiest thing to do, but it is something that can allow you to play well within this age group if you have players that can read. But it's basically just the two-man game stuff. So you can build the two-man games within 21-12 if you want by using up picks, and if you're in an open set, you can pick down. You can run Claremont-style stuff where you're just doing give and goes. But the executing and defending two-man games video, I highly recommend for every single coach, not because you're going to run two-man games. Well, everything is a two-man game, technically. And so that's kind of the overview of that video. Is a two-man game is not just picking. A two-man game is a give and go. A two-man game is a shallow cut. A two-man game is a mirror. A two-man game is a fade. All of those things are wrapped up into the idea of an off-ball player reacting to an on-ball player. And as you watch that video, you get a better understanding of why and how a player who is off-ball can think about reacting to a dodger. So let's take this last weekend from my CT standpoint, and I will what do you call it? And we'll kind of get through. So the offenses that we're running at CT this year are not the easiest offenses to see, but they put our players in a position where they can draw slides, they can find guys inside, they can get to the spots where they are their best. The problem is the setups are different than what they've seen. But once they connect the dots on those things, we're going to be very hard. Like, we're going to be a good team. I think we're going to be better offensively than we have been in the past because it allows players to flow a little more freely and it puts players in positions where they're already very successful. Now, with that being said, this last weekend, we came up against a Vista team that was very talented, and they just ran an open set and they just cut through to the crease and dodged. And some of our defensive personnel didn't know how to be a 2 if that guy clears through. They just weren't quite ready for what we did. But so they beat us with very simple tactics. And that's, I think, the key, is that you can keep it simple. But once you kind of know where you are within the sets, it just, I don't know, it helps you. And keeping it, understanding how to move, to bring it back to the whole idea of, wow, that was just a total ramble where my mind went into such weird territory. But so when you're thinking about the executing and defending 2-man games video, if you can understand all the different ways you can react to a dodger, it'll make you a more dangerous player, and it will allow you to see where you can fit into any kind of offense, not just the one that you know how to run. And so by understanding that as a coach, you can understand how to communicate with your players to let them know what you expect of them, and they can, it just builds the understanding, which is the whole point of all this stuff I do. So that wraps up this video. I hope that you guys liked it. I think we hit record numbers for this live. So I know we hit 12 on YouTube. We hit 11 on the Facebook. And then I want to say we hit 11 on the Instagram. So thank you guys for watching. Quick little end of stream plugs. Pearl lacrosse balls, flip goalies, use code POWLAX for 10% off. If you want to buy POWLAX merch, you can do that at teespring.com/stores/POWLAX-store, or you can just go to POWLAX.com and it's under the stores link. And then if you have any questions for me, always hit me up. I answer everything on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, all the above. Definitely hit me up anytime. And I hope you guys enjoyed. And if you are one of the coaches in our Coaches Only Q&A, I'll see you guys in about 15 minutes. So we're going to push it back to, let's go 10:40. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one. Later.